Hello dear friends, hope you feel good. Today I want to tell you everything you need to know about video editing in DaVinci Resolve. The first thing that you see when you open the DaVinci Resolve is this page that you can see my ongoing projects. In this page you can create new projects from here, and also you can see your old projects here. By right-click on each project, you can access the menu, rename it, delete, or anything else. Let's create new project. Click here, type your name, and click on Create. When you open a project for the first time, you see this page. As you see, it's completely empty. Let's take a quick look at it. On the top, you can see the menu bar, and in the bottom, you can see this important bar that I don't know the name of this bar. Okay. By clicking on this home icon, you can access to the project whenever you want. And you can have a quick access to the project settings by clicking on this. Things like resolution and frame rate. We created a project, this. And now, for editing video, we must create a timeline. There are two ways to create a timeline. First, automatically, and second, manually. If you drag and drop a video in DaVinci, the timeline will be created automatically. As you see, the timeline created automatically. And the properties of the timeline are same as the video that you insert in the DaVinci. But I rather not to use this way. As you see, the timeline is not exact 60 frames per second. For created timeline manually, first you must be in Edit tab. Second, click in this area, Timeline, and create new timeline. Then uncheck this, go to Format tab, and select the resolution and the timeline frame rate from here. I want this and this. And then click Create. As you see, the timeline created. Then you can add your file. All things that you add to the DaVinci will be located in Media Pool. You can easily drag and drop your files to the Media Pool. For adding the file to the timeline, you can easily drag and drop it. As you see, the timeline is Full HD with 60 frames per second. When you open the DaVinci for the first time, it looks like this. You can optimize it for a wider and better timeline with this shrink key and this shrink key. As you see, the timeline becomes wider. You can do this action for your media pool here with this key. There are different ways to import the file to DaVinci. For example, using the Media tab. Drag and drop in Timeline. Or drag and drop in Media Pool. I usually use the second and third methods more. As you can see, the main tabs are at the bottom of the screen. Media tab to import files and organize them. Cut tab to cut files and also some special tasks. Edit tab to edit. Fusion tab to create special effects and motion graphics. This tab is almost similar to After Effects in Adobe. Color tab to adjust colors, white balance, adjust contrasts and image details. Fairlight tab to adjust and manage sound. And finally, the Deliver tab to export the project. Make sure that in the Edit tab, Media Pool and Inspector are turned on. You can also click on Shrink on both sides of the page to make the timeline wider and optimize the space. By selecting metadata and clicking on a file, its information will be displayed. Everyone has their own way to import and organize files in video editing software. In order to speed up an editing process, before starting the work, I specify the files in the order of entering in the timeline with a number. Of course, this is for normal and mid-level projects. For professional projects or projects that several people work on, I usually don't change the names of the files and use the Media tab to enter the files. One of the ways you can make sure that the audio and the video are in sync is to import the music and sounds first and then sync the videos with them. Drag and drop the sound to the timeline. Then separate the part you want and delete the rest. For this, move the timeline indicator to the place you want and cut it with the blade tool. Then click on the selection tool and select additional section and press the backspace. Be careful not to use the delete key, because it can mess up your timeline in some cases. The A key is the shortcut for selection tool and B is the shortcut for the blade tool. Then enter the videos in the timeline in order and keep the desired part and delete the rest. Note that you can edit files by moving the mouse to the edge of a file when the mouse pointer changes shape. When it changes, left-click and move the mouse left or right while holding the key. Audio and video are linked together by default. By clicking on one, the other is also selected. If you want to delete one of them or want to separate them for any reason, you should right-click on the file in the timeline and remove the link clips checkmark. Note that the link symbol is removed next to the file names. Now, if you click on an empty space and click on them again, we will see that only one of them will be selected. By clicking on each of these three buttons on the top of the timeline, you can change the way it's displayed. The left button to display the entire timeline. The middle button to display the timeline with more details. And the right button to customize the timeline. By clicking on the plus or minus sign, also using this slider bar, you can adjust the timeline zoom. By dragging up or down the separator bar between audio and video in the timeline, you can customize the timeline space. I want to show you the difference between delete button and backspace. By pressing the backspace, only the file you selected will be deleted. But the delete button deletes the file and brings the whole part of the timeline that is after the file forward. Using shortcuts will increase your editing speed. Some of the important ones that you should use are right key on the keyboard to go forward 1 frame, left key to go back 1 frame, up key to go to the beginning of a file, down key to go to the end of a file, Home key to go to the beginning of a timeline. End key to go to the end of a timeline. Backspace key to delete the selected file. Space key to play and stop. L key to play forward. Each time you press it, the playback speed will be double. K key to stop. J key to play backward. Each time you press it again, the playback speed doubles. Slash and question mark key, that is near right shift on the keyboard, to play 2 seconds before and after where the timeline indicator is. And finally, like most other software, Ctrl and Z key to undo a task. The full list of shortcuts is here. You can customize them too. As you can see, I changed the files in the timeline. By selecting any file in the Inspector tab, you can see and edit all its features and details. Features related to video, audio, effects you have applied, transition between files, and finally, metadata and file properties. For beginner tasks and most intermediate level tasks, all your needs will be solved in these tabs, and you don't need to go to the Fusion and Fairlight tabs. Select a file and go to the Video tab. By entering a number in each of these 2 boxes, you can change the zoom of the image. You can also do it by holding the left mouse click and drag to the left or right. If you disable the center clip, the zoom will work separately for each of the X and Y axes. The location of the image along the X and Y axes changes with these 2 variables. This part is for changing the angle of the image, changing pitch and yaw, horizontal and vertical clip. By clicking on any of these buttons, you can return that feature to the default state, and by clicking on this button, all the features of this section will return to the default state. By clicking on any of these points, you can create a keyframe for that feature. Click on Cropping to expand the related menu. You can crop the video from all 4 sides. The amount of softness of the edges can also be adjusted from this part. By clicking the button next to each feature, it can be turned on or off. As you can see, the video is a little shaky. To stabilize the image, go to the Stabilization section in the Video tab. Choose one of the available modes and adjust the strength. And finally, press the Stabilize button. In my experience, Perspective mode works best for most cases. For fast scenes or filming things that move quickly, the Translation mode usually gives better results. Similarity mode is something between these 2. In most cases, 0.7 is a suitable number for strength. By right-clicking on a file and selecting Change Clip Duration, you can see the duration of a clip and modify it. Note that the number on the right shows the amount of frames, which here is 55 frames out of 60 frames. Because if you remember, my timeline is 60 frames per second. The next number shows the second, the next minute, and the next hour. Right-click on a file and select Change Clip Speed. From this section, you can change the video play speed. reverse, or stop it. Fortunately, unlike the versions of Premiere that I have worked with, in DaVinci, reversing the video speed, stabilizing, and some other effects do not interfere with each other, and you can easily use them. Click on a file and go to the Audio tab. From the Volume section, you can increase or decrease the volume. Remember that lowering the volume too much will make it not heard properly. On the other hand, increasing the volume too much is annoying and causes loss of its quality. Try to increase the volume till the indicator of this part does not turn red. Of course, the better way is to normalize the sound. With this, all the audio in the project are increased to a certain level. To do this, right-click on that audio and select Normalize Audio Levels. Then, according to the type of editing and the goal you have, choose a number less than 0. If the sound is loud, it will be reduced. And if the volume is low, it will be increased, so all the sounds are at the same level.
To remove sound noise in DaVinci, in the Effects tab and the Audio Effects section, search for Noise Reduction. Then drag the effect and drop it on the sound. Here are two ways to remove noise. In the first method, the software removes the noise automatically. But in the second method, which is more accurate, you have to specify the noise manually for the software. To remove the noise automatically, just click on this option, Auto Speech Mode. The software automatically removes the noise. If you are not satisfied with the result or want to do it professionally, follow these steps. Let's first set the effect settings to default. Okay. For this, we should introduce a part of the sound as noise to the software. Therefore, we have to use a part of the sound that does not have any speech and there is only noise in that part. It's better for this part to be something between 5 and 10 seconds. Okay, make sure the manual option is selected. Go to the beginning of the part where there is only noise. Then, click on Learn and press the space key. When you reach the end of this section, hit space again and then click on Learn. As you can see or hear, the sound noise has been removed better than the previous method and the output sound has a better quality. Also, by selecting this option, you can only listen to the noise.
Click on this to call up the effect setting page again. And to remove an effect, click this. To increase the quality of the project and give it a professional look, it's better to use different types of cuts or transitions when going from one scene to another. You can find a list of transitions in the Effects tab. Click on the video transitions and drag and drop one between the two clips.
In the Fusion tab, you can apply special visual effects to your image, make motion graphics, and work with 3D models. If you are a beginner, you don't need it. But if you have a moderate level, you should be somewhat familiar with it. Let me explain it to you with a simple but useful example. Removing the green screen. First, enter the clip you want to delete its background. Then take it to the desired area in the timeline and make sure you have selected it and the timeline index is on it. Now go to the Fusion tab and search the key in the Effects tab. Drag the Alt key and drop it between these two nodes. The nodes in DaVinci are almost similar to the layers in Photoshop, but they also have differences. All three nodes must be connected by the line. In the Inspector tab, you can see the effect settings. To delete a part, select the dropper and click on it. With this, the desired part is almost removed, but it still needs a little change. As you can see, some green color is left, so we manually increase the amount of green removal. The background was completely removed, but the color of the clip was also slightly changed. By changing these two variables and checking parts of the clip, this color change can be fixed. Okay, let's take a look at the Color tab. Make sure the Nodes and Effects tab are turned on. If not, turn them on by clicking on them once. Usually, the first thing I do is to create a new node to store all the changes in this section. In the Nodes window, right-click, Add Node, Character. Now, drag the node on the right line to add it to the path. You can change the values by entering a number in the boxes below, or by dragging them left and right with the mouse. Change in color temperature, tint, contrast, pivot, image details and sharpness, color enhancement, change in brightness of shadows and highlights, color saturation, hue change, and finally, luminance mix. Let me first explain a little about some unfamiliar things. Pivot and contrast work together. Pivot determines the center of the image for contrast settings. The higher the amount of pivot, the stronger and faster the contrast. By fast, I mean that as the pivot increases, contrast change occur earlier than before. And for Unlink, I can say that by default, DaVinci Resolve will manipulate the color channels together, even if you only do some things to one channel. To maintain image levels, set Unlink to 0, change this behavior. You can also determine the brightness of shadows, midtones, and highlights with these wheels. Lift for shadows, gamma for midtones, and gain for highlights. You can also adjust the total brightness of the image with this wheel. Let's color grade this video together. Make sure that the clip you want is selected. By clicking this, you can toggle the fusion and color chains on and off. You can edit the sound professionally in the Fairlight tab. Of course, if you are a beginner or the project you are doing is not complicated, you almost do not need this tab. As you can see, the sounds of each file are set in two parts, one for the left side and the other for the right side.
Also, like videos, you can put effects and sounds and use transitions between them. To add a text, go to the Edit tab. From the Effects section, click on Titles. There are different styles of text here. You can even add subtitles. Depending on whether you are using the paid version or free version of DaVinci, you will be able to use all or part of the titles. Choose one of them and drag it into the timeline. In the Video, Title, Controls tab, you can change the text properties. In the Setting tab, you can set features such as position and zoom. To increase the speed on weaker systems or when you are working on heavy projects, you can do a few things that will help you increase the speed of the software. In the menu bar, click on Playback. Make sure this option is checked, then set this amount to half or quarter. Don't worry, this only reduces the quality of what you see in the software and does not affect the output of the project. Of course, be sure to return its value to full before getting the final output. Also, put the render cache on Smart.
Go to the Deliver tab to get the final output from the project. Here you can apply your settings or choose one of the available options. As you can see, DaVinci has preset settings for popular platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also choose to get H.264 or H.265 output from the software. Personally, I use H.265 codec because it has a smaller size while maintaining the quality, and also YouTube supports it. You can also export only the audio of the project. For YouTube, just click on it and give it the name and location of the output. You can also set its resolution and frame rate. But for now, I want to use custom export. Specify the name and location of the exported file. Put the format on MP4 and choose the codec you want. I suggest you choose the same resolution and frame rate as the timeline. By choosing this checkmark, the video will be vertical and suitable for uploading to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or Instagram. I put the quality on high because it's not much different from the best, but the size is much smaller. Then click on Add to Render Queue, and at the end, click on Render All. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Goodbye.